You're watching TVC Breakfast. The federal government says it would not rescind its decision to regulate the social media, stating that the social media space is totally out of control and in urgent need of sanity.
A bill titled Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulation Bill 2019, targeted at curbing the spread of fake news, has passed first reading at the Senate. Minister of Information and Culture, Mohammed, says it is a matter of protecting Nigeria's unity as fake news and hate speech pose a threat to national security.
The bill proposes a fine of 300,000 naira or 3 years imprisonment for individuals, offenders, and 10 million naira fine for a group. Now, for an organization that failed to block the passage of false information via its platform, a fine of between 5 and 10 million naira will be imposed.
Some Nigerians are already planning to converge at the National Assembly complex in Abuja to protest the passage of the bill. Joining us now is a journalist and on-air personality, Ife. Good morning. You look so gorgeous.
It's
a Friday.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Now, one of the reasons the government says it is bringing up or proposing this bill is because the social media is out of control. Is the social media out of control?
I'll say yes, but there's a reason. Sometimes when something happens, when something goes wrong, you need to trace it back to where it started. If you will, I'll take this opportunity to talk about what happened before 2015. I'll say 2012, 13, 14 were the craziest before this government came into power. And many of you will understand how that worked, where people came up with all sorts of things, where people had no respect for people anymore. You look at someone who's old enough to be your father, your grandfather, you speak to them anyhow, you talk about them, you come up with memes and all of that. Remember, there's a president who said, look, I'm the most abused. And I tell you, that year when we had the Occupy Nigeria protest, of course, I was working with the media organization at that time, and we were right there in the thick of that protest. People were there, and they were saying all sorts of things on live television until, of course, the NBC came out with a sledgehammer to say, look, you've got to stop transmission. So there's a story that you need to trace it from where it started. And maybe if we're able to trace it and find how to nip it in the bud from there, then
finding how to nip it in the bud, that's what the federal government is trying to do. And so invariably what you're saying is this bill is a move in the right direction.
It's not. What I'm trying to say is if you had put things right, we won't be exactly where it is that we are now as it is. Look at it, of course, there was a governor also when the present administration was going to come into office. A governor, of course, went to a newspaper and actually put it up there to say, don't vote this person because this person is going to die. Nobody knows when anyone is going to die. But of course that had happened because the other party had also done similar things. What I'm trying to say is self-censorship is what it should be. That's the truth. People are agitated. People are hungry. I hear that people get paid to go on social media to talk rubbish about other people. Who are the people doing these things? You look at it, it's the politicians also.
All right, what scenarios do you see playing out now? The point there is government is now saying there's no going back on this. Now, they are citing the insanity, if you have to put it that way, of things going out of hand when it comes to the people's reaction to things like you just talked about. On the other hand, the people are saying that government and leaders have also, the level of corruption and impunity have gone out of hand.
But that is true.
You understand. So it is the issue of, okay, if you want to check us, we will check you too, and all of that.
But that's what it is.
But what do you see playing out when it comes to the power of the people on one hand?
You want to hear my opinion?
That's why you're here.
It's dead on arrival. That's the truth. It happened in 2015. Some people carried it right there on their heads in 2015. It died a natural death. It came in 2018 again. You know what happened to it? This is 2019. How are you going to move with that? Remember, you just don't wake up. It's not a military regime where you just slam it on the people and shove it down their throats.
But if you look at certain scenarios that have played out over time now, where people make certain statements and the following day you hear that they have been arrested or they've been followed and one thing or the other, you think this is dead on arrival?
I think they're flying a kite. That's just it. The people just need to stand and speak in one voice. That's the truth, I tell you. Because when you look at it day in, night out, I'm not particular about party. I'm not interested about parties. These politicians are the ones fueling whatever it is that people are talking about. Look at the former president and his wife, for instance. Remember how people used to poke fun at these people. And I say to people, the woman might not be very fluent in English like you and I. There are countries where you have presidents and their wives who don't speak in English. They may even understand in English, and they won't speak it to you. But you don't bully a woman because she's not able to do that. All of those things started yesterday. I'll tell you again, a lot of people know about this. I have been called a thief and that I was being paid by the PDP, by a politician, for crying out loud.
All right, so we wouldn't be talking about parties at this point.
Everyone is actually involved in all of this. What I'm saying to you, even the politicians who are trying to push this, Mike and Veronica, they are culpable of what it is that's happening. So for me, I think you need to sanitize the system, be transparent, provide jobs for people so that they can be gainfully employed. I'm sure you won't sit down tweeting rubbish because of the work that you're doing. You're employed, you know what you're doing, you're busy. Some people are there, they just have a smartphone, they recharge it 1,000 naira, and they sit in the small corners of their rooms, and they are fomenting trouble. Yeah. Look at when they came up with the story that the president was getting a new wife.
All right.
You can imagine.
That's another dimension. All right.
So it's not about a particular geopolitical zone.
It's okay. Let's watch and see how this thing play out. But the point there is the people are saying, the point that this is not the first time, like you said, it's dead on arrival, but let's wait and see. The instrument and the process and the institution of in the country is trying to work, but let's see how
I hope it doesn't cause some crazy situations.
It's okay. All right. Ifeanyi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Well, this is not the first time we're hearing of the plan or the move to either regulate social media or, put things. But the government will always say, no, it is not meant to gag the media. So how do you regulate social media and not gag the media?
And there are two, it's something that you can't even separate the line. That's the truth. When you say you want to regulate the social media, that means you're going to now begin to tailor people in what it is they need to say, how to say it, and when to say it. But for me, I would say so many things need to be structured, restructured as it is. Truly, there's a lot of madness going on right there on the social media. I bring you this instance. For those who know Joke Silva, she recently came up, to talk about something. And the only question she asked was, why is it that when you have some kind of an advertisement, you find that the women are scantily clad, but the men are fully covered and all of that? What is it about the sex that is in the air? And you would be amazed the way young persons,
people responded to.
Kids were blasting and abusing this woman to high heavens. I didn't see anything wrong.
And originally, that could have just been a debate for people to see things or engage from different perspectives.
Because you find it that these days, young people are becoming, objects of sex and all of that. And the woman was trying to talk about it to say, have some respect for yourself. You can be fully covered and still put something
and still pass the
across.
message.
I understand where it is that the government is coming from. But what I'm saying is you need to sit at a table and discuss this matter with the people. For you to just come up and say, no going back. It sounds to me that like there's someone right behind me with a gun and saying this must happen.
But the question is, if the government...
But you can ask someone to go somewhere where, you know where I'm talking about, if you tell them there's ice cream there. Yeah. But there's a way that you put it forward and people can sit and listen
So
to
if
you.
the government is to have a conversation with the people, who should the government be having these conversations with?
The people.
Who are the people?
The people. Town hall meetings. Stakeholders. Bring them together. Let's get to talk about it. We need to begin to talk about the issues of how you're going to provide jobs. There are no jobs. Let's stop deceiving ourselves that there are jobs. If you create the jobs you talk about and people are sweeping the streets and all of that, Is that the job we're talking about? People have gone to school. They've paid so much to go to school. I hear people go, you get a first degree because you can't get a job. You move on straight, you get a master's.
So is this about idleness, not having a job?
Most of the time, yes. When someone is idle, sometimes it's not just about not doing anything. It's even sometimes your brain just needs a getaway. You want to talk about something. Like I'm driving now, I jump in a pothole. My mechanic is waiting for me. He calls me, Madam, how are you? I know there's something wrong. But I won't tweet or talk about it. These days I put a dash cam so that people can see exactly what is happening when I'm driving. I was in traffic yesterday just to move from one place that takes me 10 minutes from where I have a program.
It took 4 hours.
It took me 3 hours. I had to park and go to the mall, sat down there. I took how many cups of coffee before going home, something I didn't plan. Now I can buy coffee. How many people can do that? People are frustrated. They're on the bus. They are going home. You get home, you have to go cook. You have to go take care of your children. I'm telling you, it is frustration. And that's why people must come out to talk. Mike, look at it. There is no power. You have to talk about it. Why is it that
But there are
there's no
ways of
power?
engaging government to talk.
Give me an instance.
You want to air your
Give me an
views.
instance.
If you want to air your views about these things, there are ways to go about it. It's still about self-regulation.
Yes.
Moderating what you have to say. There are different
Exactly.
ways to air your views.
But I think at the level we're at now, government needs to find a way to begin to engage the people. Talk to their traditional leaders, talk to their religious leaders. We still respect, many of them respect their pastors and priests today. Find a way to get to reach the people. But I'm telling you, if you respect their pastors and priests today, find a way to get to reach the people. But I'm telling you, if you do not provide jobs for people, if you do not make them gainfully employed, if you do not see them as stakeholders, it doesn't have to be a government and them kind of thing. We're all Nigerians. Call the people, speak to them, tell them why this is wrong. Look at what's happening in Rwanda. I know they will say, oh, the man there, he's more like a dictator and all of that. But they've put behind them all the madness that happened, where almost 1 million people died. And they say to you, you are a Rwandan before whoever or whatever you think that you are. Yeah. Let us move that narrative.
So all this is just about the approach.
That is the approach.
It's just about the approach.
That's
Not
it.
even the act, but just the approach. Sometimes. Now, the issue there is, all of this, everything we're doing, the whole of engagement in the country is all regulated and guided by the Constitution. That Constitution has said, you guys have the freedom to express yourselves. So, where does this regulation of social media, where does it fall in this? How does it contravene this constitutional provision here?
Now that you've talked about the Constitution, I want to say that it's not everything in that Constitution that we follow. Citizens and of course the government, because when you look at it, for me, I think that Constitution needs to be torn into shreds and the people sit together as the people and come up with how they want to be governed.
But you know, it's not possible to sit like in the Greek city-states, you know, where we all have to gather in
that arena. No.
And
when I say gather, there was a constitutional conference that you and I know about. Why is it that nobody's opening that book to say what are the good things? Some people think that this government is not doing well, but I think there are a few things that they are doing right. You don't throw the baby away with the bath water. Open that book, that huge document that was put together after the Constitutional Conference. Pick 1, 2, 3 things that you think can work in Nigeria and do it. You see all these agitations. People will stop talking when they have what they want to do. When I get home and there's power, I don't have to over-labor my inverter. By the way, I've not seen a generating set in the last 4 or 5 years. You know, it's inverter. But how many people can afford that inverter? People just need good lives. They need good roads. They need water. Housing. They need good schools. They need good hospitals. My husband died because I couldn't raise 15 million naira for a kidney transplant. Then you have a president and other government officials traveling abroad just because of cough. What are we talking about? People will be
talk.
People will be angry. So let's get it right that way, and you find that the people will decide what it is that it's going to be.
All right.
Now, the government's intention is to ensure sanity and ensure that the unity of a country is not at stake here. And as laudable as this intention might be, what measures can the government put in place? Because it is saddled with that responsibility in the first place. What measures can the government put in place to ensure that the freedom of expression is not infringed on, and then the issues of ensuring sanity and unity is also in place?
Well, truly, I'm surprised why this is taking the front burner.
Shouldn't
coming
it?
Forward. It's been there. 2015, they talked about it, nothing happened. 2018, they talked about it, nothing happened. But both of you understand that we have a cybercrime law that takes care of all those things, sedition, what have we, and all of that. Why do you want to duplicate that? That's why the people are looking at it and saying there must be something else in what it is you want to do.
The cybercrime
Then
laws?
you need to take a look at that one and see how to make it more effective. That's it.
If need be.
How to make it more effective. Strengthen it so that it can do the job that it's supposed to do. Then again, you have the NBC that's actually been doing its job, which is where you get to find a lot of Nigerians. They love phone-in programs where they can get to call in and air their opinions. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that sometimes the things that happen on social media actually give you room to vent. You have someone that you voted into office. When he wanted your vote, he came to you as a kitten and was begging you, vote for me, vote for me, and you did. When he gets it,
Purring like a car.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, and when he gets into office, then it's a loud roar like a lion. You can't even get to see him anymore. I used to live somewhere not too far from here. There was someone who was in the House of Reps. He was living right there on my street, and he had very high walls. You couldn't get in. But of course, the local government chairman at that time, you know, I wouldn't want to mention his name. When something goes wrong, I see something wrong, once I call, whether he, you know, if he sees the call, he will call back. Or I send a message, there's something wrong somewhere. And the man goes to do that, which is what should be happening. Well, you find that when these people get to office, they just forget you. It's about them and their families. But the people will talk. And that's the idea. So I think they should take a look at that cybercrime law, strengthen it, as Mike has said, see how to make it more effective. I don't understand why you want to create another body that will now start chasing after. How many people do you want to chase after? Many people who do these things on social media live under the bridge. Where will you go to look for them? That's the idea. You need to get people gainfully employed, engage them, tell them what you think should be done. Let people begin to see the reasons why they should die for Nigeria. And it's about patriotism. What is going to fuel that? You and I know.
Wow. All right. Now, let me ask that the question I've asked several times. What scenario do you see going forward when it comes to the confrontation or the engagement between the people on one hand and the government?
When you talk about confrontation, I would not want to see it as that.
Engagement.
I understand what it is for Nigeria to be together more than ever. Many people think we need to split, everyone go your separate way. It's not possible. I have cousins who are from the north, they bear other names. I have cousins who are Yorubas, for crying out loud, you know. So we're just so into each other.
That ship has sailed.
It has to sail. So for me, we can still be together, but the idea is we need to find those things that make us different, but we need to bring it to the table and see how we can get to work together. Nobody wants to see war. My father told me stories about the war. I wasn't born at that time. He told me stories, how he had to trek from Port Harcourt all the way to my village in Imbise. And it's not something anybody will. I don't want to walk to Benin Republic for crying out loud, you know. So
or even walk to Ibadan.
That's it. We need to come to a table.
Absolutely.
I will still say, like I've said in some other places, let's talk about what
Dialogue.
it is that should bring us together.
Okay, great.
Ife Onyegwule, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ife.